show.
When you think of bodybuilding, I'm sure you think of one man. Someone who defied all odds, breaking through all the barriers set before him by others to become a legend. Known for his influence and unbelievable work ethic, which would keep him relevant all the way to this day. No, none of these men. This man possesses all these qualities, and on top of that became one of the most famous men in the world. In a time before social media or the internet, he used movies, TV shows, and world tours to become the quintessential bodybuilder to most people. So much so that the sport without him would be nothing compared to what it is now. But what was it like before Arnold? Well, not so different competition-wise. Think about it, Arnold started competing in the late 1960s. The first ever bodybuilding show was in 1901, meaning there's a lot that we could go through, but I'll summarize it. The look of bodybuilding has been changing every single decade. Even before steroids were a thing, bodybuilders were getting bigger and better as the years went on. This admittedly did bring some notoriety and popularity to the sport with the more appealing looks over time, but the sport was never really a mainstream thing and continued to be very niche. However, it's what came with the bigger physiques that would influence a certain young Austrian. So we had people like Clancy Ross, John Grimmick, and more notably Steve Reeves, who were admired for their amazing physiques, which allowed them to be in TV shows and have public appearances like the original Muscle Beach. But one would rise above the rest. In the 1950 Mr. Universe, Reg Park, a young bodybuilder from Leeds, England, had a controversial loss to Steve Reeves. After this, he would not lose for another 18 years, but in this time, he did something that no other bodybuilder had ever done before. Enter Hollywood, when he starred in the movie Hercules. It was a perfect fit, a muscle man for a muscle role. This brought light to the sport indeed, but it wasn't enough to make it mainstream. People saw him mainly as just a man who was in great shape. Now I suppose this video could be about the impact Reg Park had, but it wasn't on the sport, it was on Arnold. This was due to Arnold finding a magazine in a local store starring Reg Park that stated the steps that he took and the tips that he had to become a bodybuilding champion and then a movie star. It was labeled The Blueprint, and Arnold had the tools and work ethic to act on this and do even better than Reg could even imagine. Fast forward some 10 years from the time that Reg Park competed, and the IFBB had now become one of the biggest federations in the sport, and they just created a little known show named the Mr. Olympia. At this time, Joe Weider was looking for a fresh face to take the sport above and beyond. Luckily for him, someone did come to his attention. After beating the record and becoming the youngest ever to win the Mr. Universe at the age of 20, Arnold was contacted by Joe Weider to come over to the USA and to compete in the IFBB Mr. Universe, and he did. He ended up losing. Disgruntled by this, he was cheered up by the fact that he was going to be hired by the Weider company to be an ambassador for them. This started a long winding career for Arnold, where he would go above and beyond, winning multiple shows and becoming the most winningest bodybuilder of all time. Now this was off the back of controversial shows and clearly rigged decisions, but this was Joe Weider's plan to make Arnold the GOAT, and well, it worked. Arnold became the most popular bodybuilder to date. The only issue is that bodybuilding wasn't popular, but this would change though. You see, throughout the time that Arnold competed, he kept the Reg Park blueprint in mind and started small shows and movies like, ironically enough, Hercules in New York. These were only small projects, however, but this would lead up to his biggest breakout hit to date. A movie which would help make Arnold become who he would be known as, but not only was it a breakout for Arnold, but it was a breakout for bodybuilding. After decades of the sport trying to become more mainstream, it wouldn't take off until the release of Pumping Iron. Possibly one of the most influential things to happen to the sport in regard to popularity, Pumping Iron showed bodybuilding in its best light, showing camaraderie, masculinity, grit, and mainly the lavish lifestyle that they were living back then on the sunny fronts of Los Angeles. It invited people into the world of lifting weights, driving Mercedes cars, and posing on beaches. It was what the sport needed, and it was a definite push into the mainstream. Arnold and others played, well, themselves in the film, but acted a lot more lively to make it more interesting to watch. And watch people did, as the movie doubled its initial budget at the box office. Spearheaded by its personalities, Arnold was a clear standout, using his likable self and unique accent to his advantage to draw attention from Hollywood producers and recruiters. This presented more opportunity for Arnold, and the sport was now entering its peak, but just as it was on its way up, the man who put it there almost ended up tearing it down. After the filming of Pumping Iron and the 1975 Mr. Olympia, Arnold would retire from competition, leaving the sport to look for a new star. And a new star they had in the form of Mike Mensa, a young aspiring Mr. Olympia looking to become a star, and he was definitely on track to becoming one. This is due to the fact that he had the backing of none other than Joe Weider. He was everywhere in magazines, posters, TV appearances and all. With this in mind, history was looking to repeat itself, with Mike being the new star. But Arnold said otherwise. In 1980, due to him being in amazing shape for his first major movie success in Conan the Barbarian, he decided he wanted to compete in the Mr. Olympia. A very famous story in bodybuilding history, but as we all know, he came in looking a far cry from his best. But he won nonetheless, pushing Mike Mentzer down from 2nd to 5th and retiring him completely. This did damage the sport's reputation, with fans questioning how fair and unbiased the sport was. But it would only get worse. Although not competing in the show, Arnold was tasked to organise and promote the 1981 Mr. Olympia, a show which boasted a very lackluster lineup after a boycott sparked by the previous year's controversy. It was also a show that saw Arnold's best friend Franco Columbu come in looking at his worst after 5 years of healing from an unbelievable injury that he suffered in the 1977 World's Strongest Man. He was told that he wouldn't walk again, but once healed, he did turn up to the Olympia against all odds, but with a poor package, riddled with gyno and poor conditioning. But Franco won the show, again purging the sport even further. It seemed the sport was doomed yet again to retreat into irrelevancy. Arnold, however, came in clutch for the sport once more, using other means to promote it without actually being overly involved in the shows. This was by, well, becoming the most paid actor in the world, starring in legendary films like Predator and The Terminator, which raked in hundreds of millions of dollars. Each step of the way, though, he continued to promote the sport of bodybuilding in various ways, appearing at expos, photo shoots, and even boasting an impressive physique throughout all of his roles to promote health and getting in shape. Throughout this time, he would write books for the sport, with the most famous being the Encyclopedia of Modern Bodybuilding, which was published in 1985 and still stands today as the most popular bodybuilding book ever published. However, this would be incomparable to what he was coming up with next. He wanted to rival the man that started his own career. Stupid on paper, he did the unthinkable by starting his own show and expo, the Arnold Classic. This would pose as competition to the already acclaimed Mr. Olympia, which was still ran by Joe and Ben Weider. Arnold never wanted to take over the Olympia though. I think after all the controversies in his career, attempting to overthrow his mentor and what made him big in the first place would be a grave mistake. But he aimed for healthy competition, and healthy competition for the sport was good. Providing another acclaimed trophy for bodybuilders themselves to win only helped incentivize more people to compete. Now, this happened at the height of Arnold's popularity during his movie career in 1989, which only drew more eyes to the sport and got more people involved. Furthermore, it was an expo and a show, meaning that you didn't have to just go and watch the show. You could go there, meet people, and get involved with the sport of bodybuilding over anything else, drawing people closer together into one place and promoted what bodybuilding was about to a lot of people: community. Arnold has had a negative impact on the sport in a few ways, and we can see this throughout his career, yet the good far outweighs the bad. No one, and I mean no one, has had as much impact on the sport than he has. And yes, he is a bit older now, but despite that, he still promotes the sport through many ways, such as social media and publications, and he even runs the Arnold Classic to this day, with there being different versions in multiple countries worldwide, like the UK, Brazil, and Australia. Speaking of social media, his older videos and movies have found new life in them and still inspire people to this day to go to the gym and become the best person that they can be, whether they bodybuild or not. On a personal note though, I wouldn't even be a bodybuilding fan if it wasn't for this exact video. Moreover, I wouldn't even be a bodybuilding fan if it wasn't for Arnold. His first name alone, Arnold, will forever be synonymous with movies, politics, popular culture, and more importantly, bodybuilding. Now, he is still with us, but I know that even decades from now, he will not fail to inspire people to become the best person that they can be, perhaps bodybuild and make the sport even better through his legacy.